Hello and welcome back to Crosshair. It's time for more plane reviews. This is episode 22, I believe, unless I've miscounted, in which case, shh, don't tell anyone. Before we get started, I'd like to apologize in case I make any mistakes with forgetting to do certain things or reviewing ones that have had a replacement sent in. I actually have a huge problem with my email right now that I'm trying to sort out, but I'm crunched for time, so I'm making this video now. First, this is the Crosshair 3X Mark V-A, which is by the Swedish Sloth. It's an updated form of the one that I looked at last time. A spectacular craft designed by the amazing engineers at Jeb's Junkyard Corporation. The plane is very stable and can be easily flown without SAS. The point of this plane is to do a sort of roleplay for Kerbin'side to transport crews from the launch site to any launch site very easily. It also contains emergency chutes for short landing strips, which you activate with the abort button. Activate in air. It has 61 parts, 17 mass, height, 3... You realize I can just look at all of those stats down here, right? Also, it says, you say 61 parts, but it has 77. Your mass is also wrong, and everything else is correct, though, it seems. Does it give me a fuel? It doesn't tell me a total fuel, does it? Yeah, it doesn't tell me that. So yes. 4 plus 2 pilots. Very nice. Okay, yes. Let's actually launch from somewhere else, like, I don't know. Somewhere with a runway, obviously, like... The KSC-2, yeah, that seems reasonable. And of course, as always, we want to look at these. Now, someone was asking about this very recently, so I want to point it out again. Basically, the center of lift in relation to center of mass. The further forward it is, the more maneuverable your plane will be, but the less stable. If it's in front of the center of mass, it'll be very unstable, and you'll have a plane that wants to do backflips and then crash. You want to have it as close to the center of mass as possible to be super maneuverable without, well, not super maneuverable, but very maneuverable without having the danger of flipping out. Of course, the center of mass can change depending on fuel drains, so you want to take that into account when you're designing things. Like, you know, look at whatever holds fuel and be like, well, how would this act if I emptied this? You know, so in this case, the center of mass moves forward. So you'd probably be pretty safe to put the center of lift directly on the center of mass and be super maneuverable. Of course, this plane is not designed that way. This plane is designed to be a bit more stable of a flyer, so the center of lift is a bit further back. Center of thrust, you kind of want to have aimed through the center of mass, and because that way you'll just be pushing forward. If it's below, you'll be pushing down underneath, which will act to make the plane want to rotate up. If you're putting it above the center of mass, it'll want to make the plane nose down. And unless you want those things to happen, that's how... I mean, you can design something that way intentionally. In fact, what is it? There's like a common design practice with planes somewhat, with the tail of the plane giving some downforce on the rear, even though the center of lift is further back or something like that. I don't remember. And the engines are like below the center of mass so that they can be throttled up to help with pitch up if there's an emergency or whatever. There's actually some pretty interesting stuff you can read about how passenger planes are designed to withstand different parts of them not functioning or whatever. Some pretty interesting stuff. I don't know a lot of details about it, but that is the general case with these things. Also, center of lift above center of mass tends to be more stable, and below it tends to be less stable. And that's simply because kind of where your wings are, where your center of lift is in relation to your center of mass, as far as vertical is concerned, is kind of where your plane wants to be. If your center of lift is above your center of mass wants to hang under your center of lift. If it's below the center of mass, then it kind of wants to go upside down, so it's less stable, more maneuverable. Of course, maneuverability and stability are kind of inverse like that. Inverse? No. Opposite? I don't know. I don't know what the proper term is. Anyhow, let's fly this. And I've forgotten if I've already said this, so if I haven't, this was made by the Swedish Sloth. He made the last one. This is a newer version. I forgot that it's a single turbojet and 2 basic engines, so I was kind of surprised when only one engine had special effects. I don't know why that needed a mention, but I felt it did. Very nice. No visibility. That... What? Well, that's an interesting bug. I guess that explains why he's screaming. But yes, let's pull up the landing gear, and let's pull up. And as you can see, it does a pretty quick turn, actually. Probably got a lot to do with the fact that it has canards on the front and the, what's it called? I'm trying to remember the term, but I can't right now. Thrust vectoring. But yes, this is inherently a more stable design than one with the wings pitched further forward. Of course, this is supposed to be a troop transport, so I imagine it's designed for long, stable flights at high altitude. It's also designed for Grippin side, which is, you know, the mod that I'm running that's allowing me to take off from the KSC2, which also looks a lot different than it would if I didn't have that mod. If I remember correctly, oh yes, there's the old launch tower. If I didn't have this mod installed, you'd just see that tiny bit down there, little tower, or VAB, and a little launch pad. But instead, we have this whole huge base built up around it. Look at that. Oh my god. I need to launch from here more often. It's so beautiful with all the mountains and everything. Look at that. That is very pretty. Taking a look at the aerodynamic forces real fast, as you can see, we just, you know, get a bunch of lift from things, which is, you know, what you'd expect. A bit of drag on the bottom there. Again, what you'd expect. I'm currently just flying this thing up at a steep angle because I want to see how high we can get it without running out of air, because this is supposed to be a troop transport, so it is supposed to go for high altitude, long flights over Grippin's surface. Of course, we've used, how much of our fuel have we used so far? Just kind of, okay, so we have 800, and, you know, we're using it at a fairly steady rate. I'm curious what the range is on this, but I don't have the time to really test that. I'm sorry, I just, you know, it takes a really long time to make these videos sometimes. Sometimes I can get them done a little quicker, sometimes they take really long. And today, I need to be done quickly, so I'm just trying to hurry up. We're actually keeping at around a constant speed at this point, which is interesting. You know, we're not really speeding up any faster. We're not really slowing down. But this is a very good altitude we're at right now. Of course, we can go even higher, I'm sure. You know, as long as we don't start slowing down too much. You might want to consider changing this design to have 2 turbojets and 1 basic engine. That might work better than 2 basic engines and 1 turbojet. Yeah, because see, these are barely producing any thrust now. And then this one, as you can see, it's falling as well, but not as badly. Was this designed in 1.0.2 or 0.3? This is 0.4 that I'm using right now, or 0.4, whatever, after the 1.0. And we're starting to lose altitude now, so yeah, we can't actually get to the maximum jet altitude without this thing starting to fall, because it just can't go that far. Oh, look at that drag. So much drag. Yeah, that's what happens when you try to do a sharp turn at high speed in thin air. Oh, that was interesting. There's like a really big drag component there that vanished after a moment. I don't know what that's coming from. It's interesting though. Of course, now we're going to fly really quickly down. There you go. Breaking the sound barrier. I'm going to go ahead and turn those off because apparently they have like a memory leak. I don't know if that's been fixed or not, but in any case, may not be a good idea to keep using those. Wow, we're getting to some serious speed. Guess we're going to test the aerodynamic survivability of this thing by pulling up really hard right now. Good. It's a pretty stable design if it can pull up that hard without braking. And now I'm kind of curious what it'll say the max G-force is. 6.2. Yeah, right. I just did something much higher than 6.2 just now. Alright, let's go ahead and throttle down the engines. Pull up to lose speed. Just going to do a big old loop around the ground here and then land. Because this is hilly area, which means nothing can possibly go wrong with us attempting a landing here. Nothing at all. Oh, those are air brakes on the wings! Oh, that's so cool! That is cool. I was kind of hoping these would also go out, because I think that would be pretty cool if these are also air brakes. There is nothing about action groups in the description, so I assume they're not. Whoa, let's dodge the tree. Let's actually try to land without hitting any trees. Okay. Actually, we're going to need to go over this hill, because we're not going to be able to stop on this hill. Okay, there's also trees right behind it, so we want to dodge those, since I'm trying to dodge the trees and act like they're really a thing that I could hit and be damaged by. Let's go ahead and throttle down even more. And let's go ahead and touch down. And hopefully we'll slow down to a stop pretty quickly here. Yeah, there we go. Ignore the obvious seam in the world. That's not there. Oh god, it's everywhere. But yes, that is this plane. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, so back to Soundwave's designs, including the F35, which I said we were going to test at the beginning of this video, which probably won't work due to changes in how the game's internal mechanics work. We have keys 1 and 2 to change between flight and hover mode. Alright, so let's throttle up to full, let's enable the brakes so we don't roll around, and I believe it was 2 for hover mode. Yes, it was. So let's see how well it performs a vertical takeoff. We get the pretty effects, of course, from it trying to take off. Let's go ahead and enable the RCS, because I'm sure we'll need it. If this works at all, we'll definitely need the RCS. I love that. I really need to do more gameplay in this version of KSP, because I really haven't played around with it all that much. I've just been too busy, and I really want to see these effects as I'm coming in for a landing on the moon, because I haven't seen that yet, or for that matter, anywhere else, because I've only seen them when taking off with some planes when I pull up really hard, or taking off with vertical takeoff vehicles like this. And as I figured, the vertical takeoff won't work. Oh, never mind. Wait. Sliding along the ground, that's a good sign. Oh, that's the wrong button. K. Give us a little extra boost with K. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. There you go. We're just kind of barely getting above the ground. Firing the RCS thrusters to try and get a little more lift. It's not quite working. Basically, the main thing is that the engines were really nerfed, and that's why this is having so much of a hard time going. I just enabled the main engine so that we could get a little speed going, and then in a moment or two... Oops, I did not mean to push that when I did. For some reason, my brain confused 2 and R. Not R. What was I trying to push? No, W. Yeah, I just had my finger on the wrong button. Yes, keep exploding. Very nice. Alright, look at the last video if you want to see more of this plane in action, because that was just me seeing if I could do a vertical takeoff with it, which turns out you can't, unfortunately. And after a brief crash, we have the McDonald Douglas F-15 Eagle, also created by Soundwave. I had to stop and think about his name for a moment. And as you can see, it's fairly a bit like an F-15. Some things are a little bit off, but you can partially blame the parts and the part conversions for that. I really hate the Z fighting. I know I go on and on about it every time, so I'm not gonna waste any more time talking about it, but I remembered why I didn't want to take off from the regular runway, as evidenced by my frame rate. I like how the effects get screwed up by time warp. It's so lovely. Alright, I flew a fairly good distance away from the KSC to get away from those debris pieces. Yep, I'm flying over the air race thing that I have installed for some reason. This is the F-15, as I already said. It's a bit slower than the other things, but that makes sense. It does have a lot more parts. It is a bigger and bulkier plane with 2 turbojets firing up. But yeah, it's a bit slow. It's a bit slow, a bit less maneuverable. I don't know how the F-15 compares to other craft in real life, but it's always struck me as something a bit more lumbering giant than other fighters. I mean, I have no idea if that's correct in any way, but that's the way it seems to me. But I don't know anything about those things, so I don't know. Please don't hate me. Actually, if you do know, please tell me, because I'm curious. And now that I keep talking about it, I really want to know. But yeah, it looks fairly like the F-35, no, F-15, but not too much. Of course, some of that is to do with the fact that some of the parts changed, and some of it's to do with the fact that it's kind of difficult to make things look like real plane designs in KSP, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and crash it into the water at high speed, because that seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do at this point. Nah, I'm just kidding. Look at that. Got to 24 meters for a brief second. Well, much less than a second. Alright, let's go to the next plane. Alright, I'm really excited to see what this one looks like, because this is an FA-18 Hornet. And I am not disappointed by being excited for this. I mean, other than the Z fighting, which I'm trying desperately to ignore because I hate it so much, this looks very nice. I like the look of this very much. The only thing that upsets me right this moment is the fact that we don't have a carrier to launch this from. So instead, we're either launching from South Hope or round range. I'm not too sure which one is the correct name for this because I was selecting them so quickly that I didn't even notice. We're going to make it daytime first though, because as beautiful as the night is, it doesn't make for a good YouTube video. Look at that. You can see the whole universe circling around. Now it's sunrise. Let's go a little higher in the day. There we go. It's like, I don't know, I'd say that's like a 10 o'clock sun. I don't know. I'm just making things up as I go. Oh, I've enabled the brakes. Let's turn that off. Yeah, apparently this is testing a new runway design, which is their excuse for why it looks so weird. It does look weird. It looks cool though. Alright. And we're supposed to be in an FA-18, so it better be fast and maneuverable. Wow, that really, that tilted up so quickly that I left some thruster effects on the ground there. Based on how quickly this thing took off and did that, I think I'm going to enjoy flying it. Let's go ahead and enjoy the view while going far too close to these things and pitching up really hard. And let's see. Do a complete roll. Slowing down quite a bit to do the roll, but whoa. That thing does not want to roll. I was about to say yaw. Look at that. Look how slow it is to roll. This thing rolls very, very slowly. Like, watch. Starting roll. Stopping roll. I mean, look at that. I'm really annoyed by how slow this thing rolls. That makes me really sad. Like, why does it roll so slowly? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun to fly, and I like the pitch control, but the roll is just despicable. Like, the pitch, I just go, like, okay, I'm just in, well, not level flight, but I'm not doing any control input, right? And I'm like, let's pitch up. And it's like, okay, pitching up. But then I go to roll, and it's like, roll. And it's kind of like, I'm kind of doing it. I don't know, just seems a bit slow to me. And let's, of course, test the yaw. Yaw control, see, yaw control and pitch control I'm quite happy with on this thing. But the roll leaves much to be desired, in my opinion. Which is unfortunate, because it looks really nice. Alright, let's do a low flyby in the cockpit. Oops, I pulled up too hard. Whoa, let's dodge that. Of course, the roll is very, very slow to respond, so I can't fly this as dangerously as I otherwise would like to. But let's... Flew really close to the dish there. Like, I had to take into account its rotation in order to fly that close without getting hit by it. There we go. Alright. I love that. I just love flying around sometimes. It's just so fun to fly around in first person like this. Look at that, you can just fly by the tower. Buzz the tower. Shadow on it very briefly. Look at that. Very, very nice. I'm actually going to go land this somewhere. Let's actually go land this because I want to fly something else from here and I don't want to revert the time and have to do the time warp again. And cut engines, gear down, throttle up the engines just a little, and let's see where we should land. Here? I still have the GFX mod installed, which, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be working as well as it used to, like, because I can't really seem to even get close to blacking out anymore. I still can get close to redding out, but not blacking out, which is weird. But yeah, you might notice that occasionally when I'm doing these videos. That's when I do a negative pitch. Oops, I forgot to actually enable the brakes before. Ooh! Jeez. Well, good thing we were landing already. Oh, you didn't turn down the brake force on the front landing gear, did you? You probably really should have, considering how considering how this thing was acting just now. You really should have. That's unfortunate. Oh well. It has some good, it has some bad. Overall, I'd say it really needs a redesign, though. It looks nice, but that's about it. And after one more horrible crash, we have the Origin Jumpworks 300R, which I don't... Okay, yeah, this is the one from Star Citizen. My notes, the way I wrote them, kind of confused me. And this actually looks similar to something that I've seen someone else make. A little bit, but not quite. And it also is similar to a design that I made, but again, not quite. The design that I'm thinking of had these bits, like, attached across the top. Of course, come to think of it, remember this was made with different parts. Maybe it was attached. In fact, I feel bad about trying to review this now because I bet these parts were massively changed and this used to look better, which is unfortunate. But oh well, we're gonna fly it anyhow. Oh, and of course it decided to put us at the regular runway because it crashed and I didn't change it back to the other place. Because I am... Yes, I can English. I'm so concerned I was going to strike the tail on the ground on takeoff, but I didn't, so that's good. Very nice. Let's just go really fast up and away from here. I just noticed that the buoys for the air race along the water are all nice and brightly lit up, which is pretty cool. This thing does not like me pitching up the way I was. Ooh, this thing gets going fast. I wonder if this thing can burn itself up. Ooh, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Come on, burn. 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 You're quite clearly burning. But is anything gonna break? Anything gonna break? Oh, there's a little progress bar of heat. There's several of them. They're all over the plane now. There's some of them that are quite bad. And, let's see if it'll let me target the rest of it. There we go. So, the first thing that blew up was actually the cockpit, I think. So now we have an out-of-control bit of plane with extremely high thrust, just, hurtling through the atmosphere, slowing down slowly, rotating. But the question is, will it burn up further before it, you know, loses too much speed, or will it survive further? Right now, it's hard to tell. Okay, now for a real test at the proper runway, we have the, what was it called again? The Origin Jumpworks $300, and we're at the South Hope runway. I figured it out this time. It is actually called the South Hope runway. We're going to go ahead and time warp to get up to some serious speed again. About that high should do, and then we're going to pull up really hard. See that it holds together. Yep, it does. Okay. So now we're going to go really fast the other direction. And get up to a higher speed. And see how well it pulls up from that. Again, pretty well. This thing is a fucking arrow, is what it is. It's a dart that you can throw up at high speed and survive. As long as you don't, you know, go too fast, which I did the first time. Of course, demonstrating now how difficult it is to turn at high velocities. As you can see, we're doing a very large, sweeping, slow turn. Losing quite a bit of velocity, actually. It's actually only a 2G maneuver, as you can see down there on the G-force meter. Which is pretty interesting. So even though we're pulling up as hard as we can, we're so high up that there isn't enough atmosphere to... Wow, it's kind of hard to see out there. Where's the runway? Where's the runway? I know it's somewhere out there. I don't know where. And we're starting to go really fast again. Oh, we actually had already passed past it. Of course, this thing will get going really fast, even this low in the atmosphere. I guess we're going to test its ability to maintain from a high-speed turn even more in a moment here, because I'm going to pull up really hard in a moment. We're going to see how that goes. It goes surprisingly well, and we didn't even overheat and die, which is nice. So yeah, overall I'd say this is a great design. The only thing is that it needs to be rebuilt slightly for this version of KSP. Which, I forget if the creator has done that or not. This is, of course, by Soundwave. These have all been by Soundwave, except for the first one. And I'm going to do one more plane, and that's it. Fuck landing on the runway. We're going to land on the grass, because we're pros. Oops, let's turn on the brakes. Oh yeah. Landing. Professionalism. And last, but hopefully not least, we have the Saab JAS 39A Grippin, which I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly. Of course, also by Soundwave, as I was already saying with the rest of these. The clippiness is bothering me slightly, but otherwise I think it's a fairly nice design. I don't know why I started talking in whatever accent that was, but I did, and deal with it. Okay, JAS Grippin, taking off. You know, eventually. Actually, that's a pretty quick takeoff, I'd say. Let's see how well it does in vertical flight. Can it keep itself going up? Yes, barely. Alright. And... it looks so weird. Because it's got like a somewhat bulky, like middle section with those extra wing parts. But it's just got one engine on the back, so it looks kind of underpowered on the back. Like, If I was designing this, I would have put a second engine back there. Of course, this is a replica, not, you know, an original design, so he was trying to replicate the look of the real thing. And I was doing that turn a little scarily. Just observing the runway design there, because it's interesting. And this thing flies pretty well. It's reminding me a bit of the FA-18 in how it flies. Its response to roll is a little bit quicker. Its response to pitch is, I don't know, about the same. I'm not quite sure. But it is fairly nice to fly around in. Let's see if it'll let me switch to the other... the other cockpit's pointing backwards. Never mind. I was going to say, let me see what the view looks like from in here. Also, there's not a crew member in it, so of course I can't look at it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there we go. Now I'm just kind of looking around at the terrain, because I've never been here before. Pretty cool. Alright, that's all for this time. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in space. Spectacularly. You're missing an L, I think. A spectacularly designed craft designed by the amazing engineers at Jeb's Junkyard and Corporation. Let me start that whole thing over again. A spectacular... Oh, the Y shouldn't be there.